My mother banned me from her wedding because her fiancé hates my face, canceled my 18th birthday for her honeymoon, but my three brothers did something she never expected and left her with no children at her special day. I'm 18 years old, just finished high school a few months ago, and I need to tell this story because what happened with my mom basically destroyed whatever relationship we had, and honestly, I'm still processing all of it. I guess I should start from the beginning, or at least from the context, because none of this happened out of nowhere even though when I tell it, it sounds like it did. My parents got divorced when I was like 7 years old, I think, or maybe 6. I don't remember exactly, but I was young. I have 3 younger brothers. Hunter is 16, Liam is 14, and the youngest is 11. After the divorce, we lived mainly with my mom, Rebecca, but we saw my dad often, like every weekend or something like that. It was never a super dramatic divorce at first. You know, my parents just didn't work together and they ended it. What I do remember is that my mom was always kind of distant with me. Like there was never that connection that's supposedly meant to be there between mother and daughter. But when you're a kid, you don't realize these things so clearly. You just assume that's how things are. My mom met Jason like 3 years ago, maybe 4, and from the beginning it was obvious he couldn't stand me. Literally from the first time I met him, I felt that vibe, but I thought maybe I was being paranoid or whatever. Over time, it became more obvious. Like he would always make weird comments about me or ignore me when I talked, and my mom never said anything about it. Hunter told me once that he heard Jason telling mom that I looked too much like my dad, and that it bothered him to see me because it reminded him of my mom's ex. I mean, what kind of adult says that about a teenager? You know what I mean? But my mom let it slide. Like always. Things kept getting weirder over time. My mom started spending more time with Jason and less with us, which I guess is normal when you have a partner, but it was different. Like she actively pushed us aside to be with him. When Jason moved into the house like a year and a half ago, the situation became unbearable for me. And he basically acted like he owned the place, and my mom let him, and I felt like every time I was there, I was in the way. My brothers noticed it too, but they're younger, and I think they didn't know how to process it, especially Liam, who's always been the peacemaker in the family and hates conflict. Fast forward to like 6 months ago. One day, I came home from school and I heard my mom talking on the phone about the wedding. She was super excited, planning things with what I guess was the wedding planner or a friend. I don't know. She was talking about colors, the venue, the food, and I thought, well, obviously I'm going to be there. I'm her daughter, right? I got a little excited because I thought maybe this would be an opportunity for us to finally have that mother-daughter moment we'd never had, like going to pick out the dress together or something. How naive I was, honestly. Like 2 weeks later, we were having dinner. Well, I was eating dinner and she was there in the kitchen, and I asked her casually about the wedding, like when exactly it was and if she needed help with anything. She went quiet for a moment, that kind of awkward silence that tells you something bad is coming, and then she said, "Taylor, I need to talk to you about that." I sat down and she started with this whole thing about how the wedding was going to be something intimate, only for very close people, and that Jason and she had decided it would be better if I didn't attend because, and I quote exactly, "Jason is uncomfortable with your presence because you look too much like your father and he doesn't want to have that reminder on his special day." I just sat there like an idiot trying to process what I'd just heard. Was she seriously telling me I couldn't go to her wedding because her boyfriend didn't like my face? I asked her if she was serious, and she immediately got defensive, saying that I didn't understand how important this day was for her, that Jason was the love of her life, that she needed me to be mature and understand. I said, "Mom, I'm your daughter, your only daughter." And she just looked at me and said, "I know, Taylor, but I need you to do this for me." As if not inviting me to her own wedding was a favor she was asking me. I don't know if you understand how surreal that conversation was. But wait, because it gets worse. Turns out my 18th birthday was literally the day after the wedding, and we'd planned to have a family dinner to celebrate. Nothing big, just something nice. When I asked her if we could at least keep that, she said no, that Jason and she were going on their honeymoon right after the wedding, and we'd have to celebrate my birthday when they got back, like 3 weeks later. I mean, she wasn't just excluding me from her wedding, but she was also canceling my birthday to go on vacation. In that moment, something broke inside me. You know, like when you finally understand something that deep down you always knew but didn't want to admit. I told her everything I'd been holding in for years. Like I yelled at her that she'd never been a real mother to me, that I'd always felt like I was in her way, that she didn't even seem to care that I existed most of the time. I was crying and yelling and probably saying things that didn't come out right because I was super upset, but it was all true, honestly. She just stood there staring at me like I was the one being irrational. And then Jason came into the kitchen because he heard the shouting and literally told me to leave the house. That if I couldn't respect my mom, then I had no place there. My own mom said nothing. Absolutely nothing. She just let her boyfriend kick me out. I called my dad crying and he came to pick me up that same night. I packed all my stuff. Well, what I could, because Jason was standing there like a security guard rushing me to leave quickly. And I moved to my dad's house. My brothers were there watching everything, and they looked super confused and scared, especially the youngest who started crying. And I felt horrible for causing that scene, but at the same time, I felt like I was going to explode if I stayed one more minute in that house. The next day, Hunter sent me a message asking if I was okay, and I told him everything that had happened, including about the wedding. He got furious, like I'd never seen him so angry. He told me that was bullshit. How could mom do that to me? And that he wasn't going to go to the wedding if I wasn't invited. I told him not to do that I didn't want to cause more problems. But he said I wasn't the one causing problems, that it was mom. Liam also found out, and even though he always tries to see both sides of everything, even he admitted that what mom did was wrong. The youngest was the most confused because he's 11 and didn't really understand what was happening. But he knew I was sad, and that it had to do with mom and Jason. The following weeks were weird. Living with my dad was an adjustment, but honestly, it was so much better than being at mom's house. My dad didn't pressure me to talk about anything, but he was always there if I needed him. And little by little, I started telling him everything. He got really angry, like he wanted to go talk to my mom immediately, but I asked him not to because I knew it would only make things worse. My brothers would visit me when they could, and they all asked when I was coming back, and I didn't know what to tell them. Like a month before the wedding, my mom sent me a message saying we needed to talk. I went to a coffee shop near her house. I didn't want to go to the house because I didn't want to see Jason. She showed up with this attitude like she was being the reasonable person, and I was the dramatic one. She told me she understood I was upset, but that I needed to get over my selfishness and support her on her special day, that it was important to her that the family be united. I said, "Mom, you uninvited me from your wedding. How do you expect me to support you?" And she basically blamed me, saying that if I hadn't made a drama, things could have been different, that Jason was willing to reconsider if I apologized to him for my behavior. Can you believe it? I had to apologize to the guy who kicked me out of the house for standing up for myself. I told her no, definitely not. And she got angry and told me I was acting like a child. That conversation went nowhere and we ended up worse than before. What my mom didn't know at that point was that by then, all three of my brothers had decided that none of them were going to go to the wedding if I wasn't invited. When my mom found out that none of my brothers were going to attend the wedding, she literally blamed me. She sent me like 20 messages saying I'd poisoned my brothers against her, that I was ruining the most important day of her life, that I was a terrible and selfish daughter. I tried to explain that they made their own decisions, that I hadn't even asked them to do that. But she didn't want to hear anything. To her, I was the villain of the story, the rebellious daughter who was trying to sabotage her happiness. Hunter was the firmest in his decision. There was a moment like 2 weeks before the wedding where mom took him to talk with her and Jason, like some kind of intervention or something, trying to convince him to attend. He told me later that Jason had said I was manipulating my brothers, that I was toxic and trying to control them. Hunter told Jason straight to his face that he didn't know anything, that mom had always treated me differently, that we'd all noticed it, but I was the one who suffered the most because I was the oldest and remembered it. That mom always made me feel like I was less important than my brothers or than Jason. Apparently, Jason got angry and told him he was being disrespectful, and Hunter just stood up and left. Liam was super stressed with the whole situation because he hates when the family fights. He talked to me several times asking if there was any way to fix things, if we could all just get along. I explained to him that it wasn't that simple, that it wasn't just about the wedding but about years of feeling invisible and unimportant to mom. He understood but also felt bad for mom, which I respect because that's how he is, always seeing all angles. In the end, he decided he wasn't going to go either because he felt it would be betraying me, but I could see it was hard for him to make that decision. The youngest just followed Hunter in everything, so if Hunter wasn't going, He wasn't either. I don't think he fully understood everything that was happening, but he knew something was very wrong and that the family was divided. There was a moment like a week before the wedding where Mom showed up at my dad's house. She knocked on the door and my dad let her in. Though he looked super uncomfortable with the situation, she asked to talk to me alone, and I told her that whatever she had to say, she could say it in front of my dad. She looked tired and stressed, and for a second I thought maybe she was going to apologize for real, that maybe she'd reflected on everything. She started by saying she didn't want things to be like this between us, that I was her daughter and she loved me. I asked her if that meant I was invited to the wedding, and she went quiet. And right there I knew she hadn't come to really apologize. She just wanted me to make my brothers go to the wedding. I told her my brothers were old enough to make their own decisions, and that I wasn't going to pressure them to do something they didn't want to do. She started crying and saying I was destroying her family, that she never thought her own daughter would do this to her. My dad stepped in at that point and told her to stop manipulating me, that she was the one who had caused this whole situation by excluding me in the first place. She got angry with him and told him he didn't know anything, that he'd always spoiled me too much and that's why I was so difficult. That conversation ended with her leaving the house angry, saying she was washing her hands of all this. 2 days before the wedding, Jason sent me a message. It was long and basically said I needed to apologize to him and my mom, that I was being immature and dramatic, that I was ruining what should be the happiest moment of their lives. It said that if I really loved my mom, I would find a way to make my brothers attend the wedding, that it was my responsibility as the older sister to fix this mess I'd caused. It ended, saying that if I didn't do something to fix the situation, he would make sure my mom understood what kind of person I really was, and that our relationship would be permanently damaged. I blocked him immediately and showed the message to my dad, who seriously considered going to talk to him, but we decided it wasn't worth it. The day before the wedding, my mom tried one last desperate thing. She sent my dad a message inviting him to the wedding, saying that if he went, maybe that would show family unity and convince the kids to attend. My dad told her no, that he wasn't going to help her save face when she'd treated his daughter like trash. He told her that if she really wanted her children at her wedding, to invite me properly and apologize for real, but that he wasn't going to be part of her show to pretend everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. The wedding day was weird. I woke up knowing my mom was getting married that day, and that neither I nor any of my brothers would be there. My brothers were all at my dad's house that weekend. They'd decided to be together. We didn't talk much about the wedding during the day, like we all knew what was happening, but nobody wanted to bring it up. My dad ordered pizza and we watched movies, trying to make it a normal day even though we all knew it wasn't. At some point in the afternoon, Hunter said out loud, "You think Mom's mad?" And Liam said, "She's probably furious." The youngest asked if Mom hated us now, and we had to explain to him that no, Mom didn't hate us, but she was making decisions that hurt us, and that sometimes you have to distance yourself from people who hurt you, even if they're family. I don't know if he fully understood, but he nodded like he did. 2 days after the wedding, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was a photo from the wedding. My mom looked happy in her white dress next to Jason. There was no text, just the photo. I don't know who sent it to me. Maybe it was Mom from another phone. Maybe it was Jason. Maybe it was some relative, trying to make me feel bad for not being there. I looked at it for like a full minute, really looking at it, trying to feel something, guilt maybe or regret. But the only thing I felt was this weird emptiness, like when you finally accept that something is really over. I deleted the photo and blocked the number. That night I talked to my dad and told him I think I officially don't have a mom anymore. Not in the sense that she died, obviously, but in the sense that the mother-daughter relationship we were supposed to have never really existed. And now I was finally accepting it. He hugged me and told me he was sorry, that I deserved better. And the truth is I did. I deserve better. It's been like 3 months since the wedding now. My mom has tried to contact me a couple of times, but it's always the same. Vague messages asking how I am, but never a real apology, never an acknowledgement of what she did. My brothers see her occasionally because legally they have to spend time with her, but Hunter tells me things are super tense, and Jason basically acts like they're the ones who did something wrong. The youngest asks about me every time he goes, and Mom apparently changes the subject. I started therapy like a month ago because I realized I need to process all of this with someone professional. My therapist has helped me understand it wasn't my fault, that I didn't ruin my mom's wedding, that she made decisions that had consequences, She's helping me work on not feeling guilty for setting boundaries and for walking away from a relationship that was toxic for me. It's weird because part of me still hopes mom will show up someday with a real apology, admitting she was wrong, but my therapist is helping me accept that might never happen, and that's okay. That I can move forward anyway. Last week was my birthday, the one mom canceled. My dad made me a dinner with all my brothers and some friends. It was nice. Simple, but nice. Hunter gave me a card he'd made himself, and inside he wrote, "Thanks for teaching me it's okay to stand up for yourself even when it's hard. I love you, sis." I cried a lot. The good kind of tears. Mom didn't send a message or anything. And honestly, I wasn't surprised. Jason posted photos of them at the beach. I guess celebrating their 3-month anniversary or something. And someone sent me screenshots, but it didn't even bother me anymore. I don't know what's going to happen with my relationship with my mom long term. Part of me, the small part that's still the little girl who wanted maternal love, hopes that someday she'll see what she did and want to fix it for real. But the adult part of me, the one that's learning to value herself and not accept less than she deserves, knows that might never happen and that I have to be at peace with that. I have my dad, I have my brothers, I have friends who are more family than my own mom, and that has to be enough because it is what it is. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if I'd just swallowed my pride and apologized to Jason so I could go to the wedding. Maybe everything would be easier now. Maybe I'd still have a relationship with my mom. But then I remember how I felt in that house, invisible and unwanted. And I know I did the right thing for me. I can't force someone to love me the way I need to be loved, not even if that person is my mom. And it's okay to admit it hurts, that it'll probably always hurt a little, but that I'm not going to sacrifice my dignity and my mental health to make someone else comfortable ignoring me. My brothers asked me a few days ago if I would ever forgive mom. I told them the truth, that I don't know, that maybe someday, if she really changes and apologizes for real, but that right now I need to protect myself and focus on the people who really value me. Hunter said that made sense. Liam said he hoped someday we could be a family again, and the youngest asked if we could have ice cream, which honestly was the purest moment of the whole conversation. And that's basically where I am now. Living with my dad, starting to plan my future, working on myself in therapy, and learning that sometimes families aren't what you expected them to be, but you can create your own version of family with the people who really love you. It's not the fairy tale happy ending, but it's real, and I guess that's what matters at the end of the day.